Hello and welcome to Broken Rules, a show about people making their own way in music and beyond. I'm John Lanier. Thank you so much for joining us today. Got a great interview today. William Ledbetter is a bass player, well, just all around musician, but primarily known as a bass player. He is sits in the bass chair for the U.S. Navy Commodore Jazz Band, which is a very elite group of musicians, and he's going to talk about how he came to have that role and some of the other things he does. He's got a lot of other gigs that he's involved with as well. Just an incredible story, incredible musician. So stick around for our interview today with William Ledbetter. Usually on here, I'll talk about something music related or something I'm watching or reading music related. Today, I'm going to talk about something that is not music related, but something that I've really dug. And I just started watching. Carl Hyacin is a great author that I read a lot. He's from Florida. He's written, I think, over 30 books, satire, really funny fiction, mostly all set in Florida with some just crazy characters. But anyway, one of the books that he wrote in 2013, I think, is called Bad Monkey. I think it's one of his best books. I remember buying it probably the day that it came out and reading it within just a matter of a couple of days. And so I was really shocked the other day when I didn't know this was even coming, that there was a series on Apple TV based on that book. It's called Bad Monkey, and Vince Vaughn stars in it. And it's incredible. The first two episodes are out, and then I think they're going to be releasing them weekly on Wednesdays, I think. But so I dug into those first two episodes, and it is really good. So if you get a chance to read any Carl Hyacin, I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I don't think you'll be disappointed if you jump into this series. And I think it would be fine for that to be the entry point. His books are just incredible, really funny, and usually with some real social commentary behind them. So check out Carl Hyacin, check out Bad Monkey if you get a chance. And now here's our interview with William Ledbetter. All right, William Ledbetter, thank you so much for joining us on Broken Rules, man. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Glad to be here.
I was hoping you would agree to do this, and I know you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking a little bit of time out for us. I kind of want to start at the top, which is your role as the bass player in the Navy Commodore Jazz Band, and I understand that group has been around a long time, but you're actually only the fifth bass player in the history of that band. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a position, like with all the military bands around here, it's pretty hard to get into, and it's like the positions don't really open. They're like symphony gigs, people get in them, and they'll normally stick around and retire in them. So that could be 20 to 30 years.
Do you know how long your predecessor was in that chair?
I believe he was in there for about 26, but there was the position itself, because there was like sometimes they'll like move people around throughout the command or whatnot. So if I'm not mistaken, the position wasn't open since 1991, so 30 years prior.
Wow, that tells me right there it's a good gig to have. That's a good spot to be in, because when people stick around, that's a telling thing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you got that. I'm assuming that it was very competitive, since that is the case. So what was the audition process like that, and how did you even come to find out about that?
Well, it's not been anything new in particular. It's I've heard about them. They actually came through Greensboro, I believe it was 2017. But like my old professor, Steve Haynes at UNCG, he was one of the main ones telling me. Dr. Adam Booker out of App State, he told me. A lot of people also are telling me, and like one of my close friends is like a little brother to me, who was in one of the Army bands, the Jazz Ambassadors. Killing trumpet player, by the way, Eric Williams. He was also like, "Hey, bro, you should apply, to the job." I was like, "Okay, see." I wasn't thinking much, especially at that time. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
But of course, that was during the thick of the pandemic, so there's a lot of different like range of emotions and like just I didn't want to. I was kind of thinking too far ahead, but then at the same time, like I had a feeling like I had a good shot anyway. So I was like, man, I don't want to leave North Carolina. I don't want to go up to DC because I used to live in DC and I can't stand traffic and all that stuff aside. So nonetheless, I was like, you know what? I was like, I came to a point. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna, do the audition, or I'm gonna apply for it and see if I get, a live audition, which I did. So I remember recording my tracks, and I went to the studio, with a couple of my friends, and um, laid down the audition material, sent it in, and then heard back that I got accepted to do a live audition.
So did they
And then,
did
of
they
course,
send you what they wanted you to play, or did you just get to send them whatever you wanted to do?
so it's like they send like guidelines of, okay, like we're looking for something in this genre, or something in this, like a blues, bossa nova, uh, straight A's, something like to show different versatility, and kind of something, to show, okay, how well does this person, know about like the repertoire, how makes, how's the feel, especially for like for each instrument is different, but like for bass in particular, how's the feel, uh, sound, all that stuff. And then another thing that is like a big thing is just, recording quality. Like, did this person put time and effort into it?
Right.
Or did they just,
Right.
BS their way
Right.
through?
Because is this
So,
a big deal enough for you that you're going to go in and get what you
yeah,
the
I
type
mean,
of quality?
it's a major
Yeah.
career. It's a major career. Like, it's not like I'm just, doing like just a local competition or something. It's not really going anywhere. I'm not like, that's no disrespecting any of that stuff, but even because I believe if you're going to do any of that, regardless, you should always put your best foot forward.
Right.
But with that, I mean, that was literally a major life career pivotal moment. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna have to. I'm gonna go full fledged, do it all right, make sure my stuff sounds good within the time limit too.
Yeah.
Because I have been on the other end of like auditioning stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, too long. I mean, you gotta listen to like maybe 20 to the plus takes of different things. It's like after a few seconds, it's like you can tell, is this really hitting or if it's not?
Right. And so you had a couple other people joining you on that, playing with you for that audition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You remember Krishan?
Yeah.
Darby?
Yeah. I was
He
going to
on
ask you if
drums.
that was you.
That's my
Yeah.
brain.
So
Yep. So I had him, and then Matt Reed on piano.
okay. So those guys were in your corner and like pulling for you, and they were like, "We got to make this. We got to help you out here."
But yeah, because it's like we were playing a lot, like pretty regularly every Wednesday at Double Oaks Bed and Breakfast doing the jam, and so we worked up a lot of like good chemistry and all that other stuff. And then also, because I went in there, no lead sheets, no nothing. I was like, hey, these are songs. This is how I want to do it. Let's run it,
Right.
and we can make music off of that. But then I was like, okay, yeah, but we got to figure it out and do it within 2 to 3 minutes,
Right.
For each state. So, and we knocked it out within an hour. We knocked out five solid tracks. Couple, times to do a couple of different joints. Just kind of play around to see
Right.
what it's like, So,
And then you got a call back to come up in person.
Mm-hmm.
And was that to play with members of the jazz band? I know it was members of the Commodore jazz band, or it was during COVID. How did that work? The live audition.
So they did that. It was actually kind of like a delayed process. So this happened. I applied I had to put my stuff in. I think it like the beginning of January 2020, or no, I'm sorry, 2021. So let's see. I did my recordings in December of 2020. I was like, let me go ahead and get this all taken care. Busy time. So like, let me just go ahead and knock that out. And they were going to let us know But then I didn't actually end up doing the live audition until like June of that year because with the the pandemic at full
Yeah.
swing, this stuff was just kept getting pushed
And they
back, pushed
weren't
back.
doing shows at that time, I imagine, not live shows anyway. Right. Yeah.
No. So with that being said, so then when I did audition, it was like part of the big band, like half the brass section, and I think like a couple of like the saxes. Of course, it was the full rhythm section because I mean it's a rhythm section part, so you got to have everything
Right.
in there. But yeah, I mean I mean, but it's cool. I mean, it was like I think it was 12 of us that auditioned that made it to the live
Right.
round. So it was a long day.
Was it just one day? Did you just do a few pieces and then you wait on everybody else to go in, or how? And did they decide that day or what?
They had if I'm not mistaken, it was 12 total, but 11 in person. And another one had to come back. I guess they were sick or something. So what they did was they had different rounds. The semifinals and then the final round, and then from there, if you move past that, you got to interview. So then that's how that's how like all the military jobs work. The military band jobs are working at least around the DC area.
Right. So they're like, hey, we know he can play, but let's see what kind of person he is. And then, the interview was just more talking and them asking you questions and stuff, right?
Yeah, it was actually probably the easiest, in my opinion. It was actually probably the easiest part.
Right.
The nerves are pretty down because it's like, okay, you done made it to the like step 3 of that process. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm already played and got all those nerves out.
Right.
The sweating and shaking and all that stuff. It was cool though.
And so then you found out fairly soon after that you got the gig, I assume. And and then after that, even though you're in the musician role, everybody has to go through basic, I assume. How was that? Were you ready for that?
It was an interesting time. I mean, I actually was. I mean, it's like it was. If I'm being 100% honest, it was just more annoying for me because it's like I grew up in a military family, so it's like there was a lot of stuff, of course, learning about the Navy stuff that was actually very beneficial.
Right.
But the hardest part was just, I was smack dab in the middle of the age group. So we had 17, 18-year-olds, up to somewhere in the, I think, early 30s. I can't remember exactly, but wherever it was, I was in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's like you have some intelligently smart folks.
Yeah.
And intelligently challenged folks on both ends of the age group. And it was just like,
what were you, 24, 25 when?
25.
Okay.
I turned 26 in boot camp, so that was also fun.
But physically, I mean, you're in pretty good shape before that. I mean, you were working out even before you even decided to do it, right?
A little bit. I mean, it was also coming from the pandemic, so I had to had to get rid of some of that pandemic weight. I mean, honestly, I came out in very good shape, because I mean that where we were burning calories, probably when we were sleeping too. So, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, I'm like, it was cool because one of a friend actually who we competed against, he auditioned for, there was another bass position open in one of the other groups. So he and I ended up actually going into boot camp together. So we were in the same division and all that stuff. So, there was somebody there I knew, and then like we had each other's back. That stuff.
How long is that? Is that 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
When I went in, it was 8 weeks. If you didn't have like the 2 COVID shots, then you had to do like 2 weeks of quarantine. So that turned to 10 weeks for some of those folks.
Okay.
So yeah, it was. I got in pretty much at the right time.
Yeah. So and then after that, I assume. So what was that? Late 2021.
Yep, 2021.
And then you
Yeah, it's crazy to think I'm coming up on 3 years.
That is crazy.
September makes 3 years.
So after that, you just jump into the role, or was there a break between completing the basic and going in to start rehearsals, or what?
No, pretty much as soon as I graduated boot camp, the next day I was on a plane to DC,
Yeah.
and my sponsor, who was the drummer in our band, Kevin, he picked me up from the airport, and then that was I think that was a Saturday. So then, I was just kind of chilling that weekend, but then Monday morning
Yeah.
I reported, at the Navy Yard, and then that's when they actually pinned me as E6.
Yeah.
So, and then it was cool because my dad came up and he brought me my card, but he also pinned. He was one of the ones that pinned me.
That's awesome. They have a ceremony for that.
So,
Okay. Was your dad in the Navy also?
No, he's actually retired officer in the Army.
Okay.
So it's always funny because everybody's like, yeah, y'all don't have like the Army Navy beat. I was like, actually, he was the name was like, hey, son, you should go do that.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. I saw the Commodore Jazz Band. I think they came to my hometown at some point when I was in high school. And I remember seeing them. And I wanted to kind of ask you, like, I know you have the big band. Do you guys have smaller ensembles that you do shows with too, or how does that work?
it depends on, there's many different factors, like stage size. Sometimes we will do a lot of different, we do a lot of protocol gigs, whatnot. So we'll like play gigs for, the who's who.
Right.
But they will also do a lot of music in schools and stuff like that.
Right.
So we'll break up into different size ensembles for whatever.
Being part of the rhythm section, you're usually on all of those, right? Even if they pare down the other stuff, the drummer, the bass player, piano, guitar. Is there a guitar player in there? Okay.
There is. So sometimes it will interchange between guitar and piano. Sometimes it might be both.
But bass and drums is pretty much always in.
Pretty much, yes.
That's cool. So what is the schedule like as far as rehearsals? Do you guys have a regular rehearsal schedule, and does it change depending on what your touring schedule is? How does all that work? What's a normal week, or is there a normal week?
There isn't. I mean, it varies from week to week because, sometimes we have like a couple of concerts to 2-3 concerts in a week. So we might not get as much rehearsal in, but then we'll also have times where we're not. So we'll get more rehearsal time in. Or if we have like a big conference, like we were at the Gen Conference this past January in New Orleans. So like leading up to that, there was some time where we would rehearse every day, and we might extend rehearsal times from, just to make sure we're getting all this stuff to present a good, solid project.
Yeah. How was it adapting? I know you've been playing a lot your whole life, and certainly you were when you were in Greensboro, North Carolina before that, but how does it compare with what you were doing before? I mean, you guys are working all the time, or it just depends?
It just depends. I mean, it's I'm thankful for the job because it's like, it's a good steady workflow, and of course the benefits and all that stuff. Just like we have our concerts, public concerts, protocol stuff. I actually enjoyed that, to be honest with you. But then at the same time, I do have times where I can freelance too.
Yeah, I was let's talk about that a little bit. I know you've done some pretty high profile stuff outside of that. I know there's a pretty big jazz scene in DC, I think. What else have you done as far as outside of that?
So of course, got a name drop, but I've been fortunate and blessed to play with Delphio Marsalis. I've been on the road and toured with him quite a bit. And also I recorded on his last album, the Mardi Gras album that came out in 2023.
Okay.
And then, and of course, also working with Branford, and I got to play with his quartet quite a few times as well.
Okay.
So that was
how was that?
Love it. I mean, like that right there is like, for me, it's I mean, even when I was in North Carolina, that was always one of my goals.
Yeah.
It's like to be able to like be on that level.
Yeah.
And I still got a long ways to go, but it's like be able to hang and like be in the circle and like, in the presence of like playing major shows and stuff like that.
And it's not just being in the room, but it's being on stage with them too. I mean, it's one thing to be in a
Yes.
room; it's another thing to say, "Hey, you're the person. Let's go." Um, that's
Yeah.
incredible, and to be able to have that flexibility is amazing too. I mean, that's a really good
Hmm.
position to be in. I would imagine that as a musician, that's very unique. The situation you have is very unique. If you know having that stability of the Navy thing, and also having the ability to do it, there's a lot of people that would love to have that. you know, well, you
Hmm.
know what it's like
Yeah.
because you did it before that.
Really?
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very thankful for it, because like I tell, I have to remind myself too, it's like, what are your reasons why? Some of the life goals I always wanted to do, I got a house, which
Yeah,
I'm in, which I lovely call Ledbetter Manor.
you got
So
your own place. Yeah,
yeah, I got my place, I'm, I really can't complain,
yeah,
There's always things, like nothing's perfect,
yeah.
but it's like, I'm very
Yeah,
thankful.
that is amazing. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. I know you grew up in a military family, and I think
Mhm.
I have in my notes, and this may be wrong, but primarily in Virginia, or was that just where you kind of ended up
Yep.
for high school?
No, that's where I mostly grew up. My folks are from Virginia, so I grew up in Hampton.
Okay.
Um, so we moved around quite a bit, but then once we got to actually third grade, uh, when we moved back to Virginia, we kind of settled there. So then my dad would deploy and but kept the family
Uh-huh.
there. Because it's like they wanted me to have, uh, just a good steady group of friends and growing up and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Because the moving around as a military child is pretty hard. Like, I actually didn't really think about how much, when it'd be like, the spouse and children appreciation about like the military
Yeah.
service. Like I haven't really understood that until like more so as I've got
Yeah.
older and I start to see some of that stuff. And then, as I'm like, I still got some time for kids, but I'm just thinking about that, like,
Yeah.
how that would impact it, having to move away from your friends and stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
there's something like, I can really appreciate
Yeah.
and understand. And that's once again another benefit about my current gig is I'm permanent duty here at DC. So I don't have to worry about the moving
Yeah. I
around.
mean,
So
aside from touring out or whatever, your home base is there.
yeah.
Are you an only
Hmm.
child?
I
Okay.
am.
Um,
So
And I know this, you told me this when we first met several years ago, but bass was not even your first instrument. I mean, bass is probably you came
no
to more recently. Was it keys or guitar that you started out in?
piano.
Okay.
Piano when I was 3, when we used to live up here in the DC area in
Uh-huh.
DC. My mom enrolled me in piano lessons, and
Either
yeah,
of
I
your
mean,
parents musical or no?
my dad plays a mean air guitar, but that's about it.
So neither your mom or dad were musicians.
Not really, no.
Okay.
My grandparents were, so they say it's just skip the
Yeah.
generation.
So your mom got you in piano lessons. What age was that?
That was 3.
3. Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did you stick
Yep.
with it from
So
that time, or did you go away? You stuck with it
mhm.
from age 3?
Yeah. Yep. So and it's like, especially I think somewhere around age 5 was like, he's like, oh yeah, no, okay. He's got a really good. 'Cause I mean, I've always loved music, even when I was a toddler.
Yeah.
Parents playing all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So then, they, that was just the main joint. And then I played a couple of different instruments over time, but guitar. When we met, guitar was still. I still played it a lot in Greece, but I don't really play it as much
Uh-huh.
nowadays because bass just takes up
Yeah.
pretty much all my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, you have
But
to. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's a lot of work out here for upright bass
Yeah.
players. That's why I keep telling folks.
Yeah.
Like, pick up the. But it's funny because to go back to like what you said, yeah, the bass. I didn't start playing bass. I moved down to North Carolina when I came down for college, and actually the bass kicked me in a
Were
sense.
you going to college for music, or were you going for something else? You started
Engineering,
A&T, right? North Carolina
I
A&T
did.
for engineering.
Yep, mechanical engineering.
Okay. And by that time, you had all that background playing keyboards, but you were already playing guitar and stuff too.
Yeah, guitar is my main instrument from whenever. I can't even remember exactly when I picked it up now, but that was like my main instrument. So that's where, everybody knew me. I was playing, I grew up playing
Were you in like
blues, rock
high
and
school
roll.
bands and stuff like that with kids in high school?
Yeah, I was in a rock band throughout middle and high
Uh-huh.
school, and then we had like a guitar ensemble at my high school too, which was really cool. So that's where I learned how to really like read music and also read music on guitar, and then like learn mandolin and classical guitar.
Okay. When you were on the
so-
piano lessons, you started so young. Were you reading piano stuff too, or was it just?
It was both, like reading, but it's like I had really good ears, so it's like my mom would tell me a story. Like one of the piano teachers, like I will not play it for him because he'll hear it and pick it up. So that kind of forced me to like actually read the notes on the page.
That's been a theme. This is a fairly new thing for us. You may be our 10th or 11th interview, and I'd say that 7 of those people said the same thing. I started taking piano lessons. My teacher hated me because I was ahead. I could play it before I could read it. I could hear it. I just heard them play it, and then I was like, "Oh, I got it." And you feel like that was the case with you as well? Yeah.
I mean, it's like having good ears is like, especially in my field, it's like one of the most crucial things.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to just hear things, where the music's going, and like it's a lot of different things.
And
you also have to be able to read well too.
Right.
Not discounting that, but you really have to be able to hear,
and you have to anticipate what's coming next too.
It will help you. So it's like, especially when like my main thing playing, in a jazz band or just playing jazz, period, is it's a lot of improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
So and by improv, it's not always, a lot of people just think of like improv is just like soloing, like, creating on the spot, while the band is playing. But honestly, one of the most important things is the improv within the rhythm section, how we accompany, whoever's song, because it's like we control a lot of that stuff. And it's like, you can't hear, like, oh man, we're here. And this person's, they're about to get up here. I mean, it's no different from like, like we were doing like rock camp and stuff, how we would have like different points, like, nah, we need to bring it here. So then when we get to that one point, it's like, boom,
you're hearing like the sax or whatever is soloing, and you're like, okay, he's going up here. We got to follow him up here and be underneath him and support him. Let's go wherever he wants to go. That's the job.
But then we also have the power and control to guide where they're going,
or bring it back. It's like, okay, we got to bring it back.
Bring it back, but then also push them to somewhere too. So it's a conversation, but you have to know how to have a conversation where it's like you're listening, but then you also know when to interject or sometimes just shut up and listen.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. So you picked up the bass. Was that like maybe your freshman year in college that you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do? How did that happen, and how did you ditch the engineering for the music?
So the long story short, I started at North Carolina A&T as a mechanical engineer in fall 2014. And I was also going to do a music minor, but I was enrolled in a jazz band. And my professor, Marjorie Moffitt, who's the late great Charnett Moffitt's older brother, actually. So Marjorie Moffitt, he teaches, I think it's at Simmons in Louisville. But he actually put me on bass because there was 3 guitars. I was one of the 3 guitars. I didn't really have a lot of solo chops on guitar, like for like in the jazz language and idiom. But I could read pretty well, and also I had a really good feel, especially like playing chorus and rhythm. So that was one thing. But it's like there was no drummer that year. So the one of my friends, killing electric bass player, a lot of these, all my friends are like multi instrumentalists,
Yeah.
but it's like he was playing electric bass, so he swapped over to the drums because he already played drums too, and they had an old K bass laying around in the band
Yeah.
room. So like, sometimes after hours and late at night, me and my best friend Dre Dobson is a killing saxophonist and now playing electric bass and all that stuff. We would go and share in the band room. So, our professor, he'd still be there, finishing up on work or whatnot. And sometimes we go hang and just talk and all that stuff, but he would see us coming in and shedding all the time. And, there was one time he was like, all right, y'all two keep playing the instruments. I'm going to put you on it.
Yeah.
Because Dre would come in and shed piano. He plays piano too, but it's like he was coming in there. He was the lead alto player.
Yeah.
And, I come in and I started messing around the bass and all that stuff. So, Dre got the hint and apparently I missed the hint. So I come in there, I think it was a Wednesday. We met Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He was like, all right, well, you on bass. I said, huh? What? So, and I didn't really think much of it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I just kind of started figuring it out. And, I was still, my full freshman year, I was still doing each and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
Because I was ahead in all my math stuff. And when I finished differential equations by my second semester as a freshman. So it's like, I was on track, but then it was like, there was such a great music scene in Greensboro anyway. Because I started messing around the bass. I was playing guitar in the gospel choir, playing in some churches. So every now and again playing wedding bands, just playing. I'd go home, play blues gigs. Like I was very busy. So it's like, it's kind of hard to have two majors that are very hands-on and very time-consuming.
And engineering is such a, I'm sure very demanding, but it's such a responsible choice. Was that a difficult thing to sell to your parents, or were they like, hey, go for it. We see what you're doing. We're behind you.
It was difficult for me because I didn't know, my parents and, all my family and friends and mentors, they knew before I knew that I was going to change majors and do all that stuff. It was more so like, okay, when you going to be ready?
Okay, they're waiting on you.
In a sense, because it's like, it took me a year and a half at A&T before my last semester there is when I changed to a music major. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, if I want to really take this seriously for what I'm trying to do, because A&T didn't have applied double bass teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was picking up stuff pretty well actually, but it's just like, there's a lot of stuff that I really need, just foundational stuff, the principle of the bass that I just needed, to really get and study. Mm-hmm. So, Professor Moffitt, he was like, hey, this is what you're trying to do. Might I recommend, you look into going up the street to UNCG, and also, I knew about UNCG because I had, a lot of musician friends that we would go back and forth. Right. But also, like Dre, he would take lessons from Chad Eden, who teaches saxophone over there. So it's like, it wasn't my first time, but he's like, you should reach out to Steve Haynes. So I did. And I've reached out to him like super late into the semester. Mm-hmm. Like I got into I did my audition on his birthday. And then I actually got into the school the summer of 2016. So then I started that fall.
And
so
what year was that for you?
I was finishing up my sophomore year at A&T. Okay. So then I went into UNCG, which would have been my junior year, but I had to stay an extra year. So I did 5 years in undergrad, but it's also I was a cheaper junior.
Right.
Or a cheaper sophomore, I guess you would say.
And you did a music performance degree?
Okay. Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, as you know, I went there too, and I'm sure it's changed a lot. But I have not just UNCG, but A&T and just the whole city of Greensboro. And what you said before, there is a lot of stuff out there. If you're a working musician, there's stuff in Greensboro, and I always admire
and the surrounding area.
Yeah,
that's what I love. I mean, I love the chances I get to go back down there and Because it's something special about. I'm just now. I'm also biased to North Carolina. There's something special about North
Yeah.
Carolina. It's like,
Yeah, me too.
you
I'm
know.
from there, but I agree. And Greensboro especially. So
Mhm.
that just took off, and then you finished there, and then you hung around there for a few years doing all kinds of gigs,
Mhm.
including those things with the trio that you guys had at the weekly thing, and
At Double
and
Oaks.
and I think you had
On Philly.
several church gigs and a lot. I mean, you were going 7 days a week, probably, right?
Holy, I mean, shoot. It was m- let's see. By my second year at UNCG, which would have been my technical senior year. But so I did 3 years at UNCG, and pretty much I was taking like 18 credit hours every
Uh huh.
semester. And by that second and my last year, mostly there was a lot of time I was geeking like 4 or 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
And then of course I had the 2 church services because I was playing guitar at Wells Memorial Church of God in Christ, and then I play electric bass at
Yeah.
Westminster Presbyterian. So and then I would sometimes have a Sunday afternoon evening gig. So there was many times that was like a triple header. It's like Sunday was not my day of rest. It was like my busiest day.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is
So
awesome. Well, I
yeah.
want to ask you a couple more questions. One of them is this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately,
Mhm.
and I'd like to ask some of the folks we have on here that are, all of them great musicians. But do you think there's a difference between playing and practicing, or is playing is practicing, or do you make that distinction?
There they it's how I say it. There is a difference between playing and practicing, but it's not to say that you can't be playing and practicing at the same
Right.
time. So like all the time I was on the bandstand, I was playing, I was performing, but I was also practicing too, Like I might not have been just running scales like
Yeah.
I might have been, okay, how am I trying to run this scale in this song, like, or practice like some of the shift and stuff that I would do in that as I'm walking the bass lines. And what are all the options and possibilities?
Yeah.
Because I have a 3 hour gig. So I have all this time to like work it out, but not sit there and be like, da da da, oh, crap, ba
Yeah.
da ba da. It's like, how do I work? It's more so kind of working on your execution in real
Right.
time. So that's where I would say like the practicing and performance go hand in hand. Because a lot of that stuff is, you got to be able to execute it in real time. And you're not going to always nail
Yeah.
everything. God speak to the people who do, but that how do you recover if you make a less than desirable choice, or you made a choice that you weren't expecting, but it's like, oh shit, that ended up taking me going somewhere
Right.
else.
How much time do you spend now just doing fundamental practicing, not rehearsing tunes that you have come up, but just fundamental scales and things that you are intentionally practicing? Do you spend a lot of time doing that?
I don't spend as much time as I should, but I do, depends on, what my schedule's like. Since I'm always gigging, I still try to work out stuff. You
Right.
know, one of my big things as an upright player is, and I taught a young student today via FaceTime. We did a lesson, and the main thing I was like, hey, biggest thing that you got to work on is your left hand. That's where your sound is like foundation. So when I'm on gigs, I'm always conscious of that. So even if I'm not sitting here at the house, like just shedding, running stuff, I'm like, when I'm on the bandstand, I'm like, okay, how's my hand looking? How's it feeling? What can I do to make it better? Or am I already doing stuff okay?
Yeah.
Uh, so it just depends. Sometimes I'll spend all day shedding.
Yeah.
Sometimes I won't touch the instrument,
Yeah.
for
I
a bit.
always think to myself, like when I was a teenager, I spent pretty much my whole middle school and high school just practicing. And I was about as good as I got was then, and I just been playing ever since. So I'm trying now, even
Yeah.
at my advanced age, I'm making myself, and this is for singing and playing or whatever, go back and do those things, and I kind of think I should have been doing that all along. People told me to, but I was just, I kind of just started playing, and that's experience too. It's all worked in together. But uh,
Very fun.
that's an interesting question. I think what you said makes a lot of sense. So, do you write it?
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, are you writing any at all?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I have written a big band chart for our band. I've done a small band stuff. Now, also, I mean, I also have some originals from back when I did my like senior recital, and then every now and again I'll write like a new tune. Actually, I wrote one with contrafact over one of the big band tunes we played. But I wrote, I was like, hey, me and my bro Ryan Hansen, killing pianist, from North Carolina and New Orleans and all that stuff. But he's also in the Navy band with me now. And we were playing a gig last Wednesday, and we were closing out the last set, and we were playing like a fast blues, but it was like not just a traditional 12 bar.
Yeah.
It was a 16 bar, had like an extended horn. And like, you know what? We should like make a head or something to put over there so we could play it, like talking about it. And I was like, I was riding back from a gig, and I pulled out my I hit the voice recorder on my phone. So I'm driving and I'm singing into it. So I can remember, I was like, okay, I have like some ideas that came up. And then, it's like stuff happens, like that, where it's like, I'm not actively trying to just be like, okay, I need to write something by tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, something inspired me. Like we played a gig, and we normally like to record our gigs on our phone.
Yeah.
So then it's like, listen back to it, and it's like, oh shoot, I missed that in a moment. Or
and that's cool that they're receptive to you guys bringing things in as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the band arrange and write originals, or just arrangements of charts. Because it's like, it's cool to bring in and play new music, or different takes on some stuff, and it's and of course it's also easier because then it's like you don't have to worry about paying all the different license being like how you have to like buy music versus if the person in band is arranging it,
And you guys, you guys do a mixed repertoire of standards that people know, and then you can throw in some stuff that's a little bit more maybe unfamiliar, that kind of thing. Do all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a lot of stuff that's like big band, like traditional big band stuff, or even like different eras. But then there's like a lot of modern big band type stuff that we dive into, or we're playing. We do stuff like out of from like Duke Ellington and bassist Thad Jones to even like Maria Schneider and all this stuff. So it's like, or even modern pop tunes, like our lead alto player, he wrote out that band Moonchild?
Yes, heard of it. Yeah.
So like he wrote out like a big band version of The Other Side. So it's like we have stuff that will just sometimes we'll play some of the stuff, it depends on how like what's the kind of vibe or the feel of the concert or whatnot. And
that's awesome. So what's your summer like? Are you guys playing a lot? Are you touring, or you all over the place?
Summer is like one of our busiest times because we have a lot of we do a lot of outdoor public concerts and stuff.
Is it all stateside, or do you guys go overseas as well?
No, well, we're stateside. I mean, there's fleet bands and other stuff like that are stationed overseas, and some, and some within the United States too. So normally some of that stuff is reserved for them, but every blue moon, like they'll have people on command, go still in if it's necessary.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And are you on a bus most of the time, or you fly if you go out to the West Coast, or how does it work?
So I haven't been out to the West Coast with the band yet, but it's like we do, our last tour when we went down to the Southeast, we were on the bus the whole time. But like my first time on tour, when we flew out to Memphis and was all, throughout like the South Midwest, like just like the South part of the West. So like a lot of Texas, Then we ended in New Orleans. And it was kind of cool because we ended on my birthday. So I took leave and stayed down there for a couple extra
In
days.
New Orleans? Yeah.
Because that was my first time there too. So it was like 2022. So, and then I then flew back.
That's cool. Did you play a lot while you were just hanging out down there?
I did. I mean, I went. We finished up our tour, and then I was down there. I was hanging with Delphio, working on some different stuff. I actually laid down a bass track or two at the Ellis Marsalis Center, and I was just trying to enjoy myself. Get some good food.
Yeah.
Hear some good. I got to sit in with someone. With some cat like Leroy Jones. He was playing at Mahogany Hall, so I was walking by, stopped through. Because Delphio told me he was playing there. And I was like, okay, let me go. I ain't seen him in a minute, And man, it was. I caught him on a break, and he's like, Ledbetter, good to see. And he's like, man, you feel like sitting there? I was like, yeah. So then he pulled me up for like at the top of the second set, and I played a few tunes with the band. So it was,
Yeah. I love New Orleans. New Orleans is there's no place like it. No place like it.
No. Exactly.
Memphis is the same way in a different way. And Nashville, where I'm at, it's the same way, but in a different way. But New Orleans has that and the food. So that's
goodness,
that is the good stuff right there. Well, hey, I really appreciate you doing this, William. But I got to ask you one more question. I have this just written on the bottom of my stuff. Tell me about the car, because I saw this on your social media a couple of years ago. I got to know about the car, and
you talking about the my.
It looked like you got surprised with this thing. This was your dad's pride possession or something, and
it was my uncle that gave it to me actually. Okay. So we when we were stationed down in Columbus, Georgia, family they become very close family friends. So I call him, Uncle Cal. Yeah, I mean, he is the reason I love muscle cars.
Yeah.
He had a few GTOs, and he had my number one favorite car is the Charger.
Yeah.
Anybody that knows me knows a '69 Charger, which he has. It's like, ooh, that's it. But my number 1.5 is the one I'm super thankful, that he thought so much of me to give it a 68 Pontiac GTO.
Yeah.
And it's a stick shift. It's so much
He just
fun,
surprised you with it. Like you had no idea, right?
Yeah. Him and my dad were in talks of, trying to arrange to do that surprise. And it just kept getting delayed because my schedule, it's just crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's cool because it's like, I remember, all the when I was 6, 7 riding in that car, me, my family, it'll be my uncle, mainly my uncle, my dad, me, and then my cousin Andrew, my uncle's son. And yeah, we go cruise, get some ice cream, go burn some rubber, just all that good stuff.
So you get a lot of looks when you drive that thing around, I guess.
Oh man, yes sir. Shoot, me and my bro Eric Williams, we just because he has a Camaro SS 6-speed. That thing's fun. But we just took where is it? Harpers Fair. We just rode out the Harpers Fair this past Sunday. We were doing a birthday ride, cruise celebration for him. So even though it was we were just having a good time, I definitely got so many looks and people honking yeah.
Do you take it to shows and stuff?
I haven't yet because I'm slowly restoring it. It's a project, but it's a good drivable project. Like last year, my dad and I took the 4-speed manual out of it and put a 5-speed, so I could cruise on the highway a lot better.
So you learned
it has a toll.
You learned all that from your dad and your uncle, how to work on cars and stuff like that.
Really, yeah, because my dad, like I said, he's an engineer, and he was, he grew up, country boy, working on all that stuff, learned from his uncle.
Yeah.
So I was working on, I had an old S10 Blade. I still have it, but I was restoring that or trying to, throughout college.
Yeah.
But, time, money, and just different life things. I got to put that on the side.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like that's kind of a
um,
lost art. There's not many people around in my generation, and much less your generation. Certainly, a lot more in your dad's generation, my parents, that know how to even change their own oil or whatever.
yep,
That's it's
yep,
just it's a lost art. But I know that it's a passion,
it is.
and that's a I don't know. I like it. I saw those pictures. I was like, man, I thought it was already restored. It looked like it from the outside.
It, I mean, my uncle keeps his cars in really good condition.
Yeah.
It's and the fact that, I mean, it kind of sat for a while because it's like, you had multiple ones, but it's like it's got its issues, but I mean, the body is like really great condition, very low miles. It's got the original motor, so. But it's like I'm gonna take it upon myself to rewire it. Hopefully, well, I'm gonna do it with my dad. I think my uncle's gonna come up to Virginia, and we're gonna rewire the whole car, and I'm just trying to update it so that it's like really good to go. I mean, the drivetrain is good, so slowly but surely, because that's time and
Yeah. It's not cheap. I can only imagine.
no,
Yeah. That's awesome.
you
Well,
know,
hey, man, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're really busy. I appreciate you being on our podcast. And
oh
I wish
yeah,
you all the best. And I will put some links to the schedule and everything, if I can, in the show notes here where people can come see you. And I really appreciate it. And I'm super happy for you. And this has been a great conversation. I appreciate it very much, William.
thanks, my man. It's good to talk with you and see you again. I'll let you know what, because I think it might be next year we'll be coming out your
Oh, to
way
Nashville.
with the
Okay.
I think we'll probably do like somewhere in that Midwest
Okay.
kind of
Well,
region.
if you're in Nashville
So,
or anywhere nearby, I will definitely be there. I would love to see you.
my
All
man.
right. Thank you again, William. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Okay, that was William Ledbetter. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope you'll come back and join us. If you like what you hear here, please tell a friend and leave us a review and follow us on social media and just help us get the word out. And we'll keep putting these shows out there. This is, I think, maybe our 9th episode. I'm not sure. We're going to be wrapping up our first season here in just a little bit. And we've already got some great stuff on tap for the next season. Probably going to change some stuff up a little bit about the format and just continuing to improve on what we've got going here. So we really appreciate you following along with us and listening to these podcasts. And we will see you next time right here on Broken Rules.